Hi, welcome to the Step-by-Step Millionaire, where our job is to help you make money. And today we're coming from a new studio, from one of our newly renovated properties. And today we're going to cover the question of, you've got all those gurus out there. And fortunately, because our channel isn't monetized at the moment, because we're not here to be making money through this, we're actually here for a different purpose. I watch videos on finance all the time, and sure enough, there's right at the front, right in the middle, right at the end, there's these guys who are getting out of their Lamborghinis with their beautiful, large-boobed women, and they're saying, hey, if you use our system, you can make millions too. And it's sadly part about it is they're targeting, if you're in the 18 to 25 range, they're targeting you. Why? Because you don't have the experience yet to know they're full of. Okay, so if you ever see one of those commercials where the guy's selling you that thing in the middle and it's like, if you give me just 15 seconds, I can show you how to make millions of dollars sitting at home picking your nose. It doesn't work that way, okay? There is no system in the world that allows you to do that other than the lottery, and your chances of winning that are getting struck by lightning. You know the actual figures, but people keep buying anyway. Why? We'll get to that later. What I'd like to cover here is several things on it, and I'm going to cover all of the gurus. So those people that are at the front videos, those are the useless gurus, okay? They're the guys that are there to sell you their useless system that you could get by sitting down and looking through some good YouTube videos that you can find here. There's some good channels out there. I don't remember Steven's last name, but he's got some great videos on personal finance. Young guy, done it the proper way using real estate and some other stuff. But here's the point. Point one, if these guys had a quick get-rich scheme that actually worked, they wouldn't be selling it to you. They would be rolling in the cash, ignoring you totally, and getting so stinking wealthy that they would be the first trillionaire. You can tell. First off, that's the number one reason why you don't want to buy them. The second reason you don't want to buy them is if it really worked, they'd be giving it away for free once they've made their money, because that's what people do who are in finance, who are good people. They want you to be able to do the same thing they did. They're not worried that they're going to get crowded out because they've already made their money. They're already sitting on their 10 million, their 20 million, they're happy. So that's the first type of guru, and I want you to ignore those from now on. Don't even click, don't even watch. None of them work. You cannot make money drop shipping from Amazon. I mean, you can make money, but no more than if you were working at 7-Eleven. And you make more at 7-Eleven, because the amount of time that you have to put in for what you're going to get out on the other end is horrendous, okay? You have to understand that by the time you're going to get into the idea of drop shipping, by the time you're on there, that lane is so full, there's no room for you. You get in there, you're just one in amongst millions. It's not the way to go. Real ways to get stinking wealthy require a different path. So we're going to cover a lot of that today. Now I want to move on to what I would call the actual finance gurus that will give you appropriate information. But I want to cover why it does and why it does not work in some situations. So we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Susie Orman. Each of them has a different method. Now you've probably seen Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Throw that cover up here. This is the one that came out a long time ago. And I read this one when it came out. Pretty decent. Highly risky, but pretty decent. So I'll give this book an 8 out of 10. Now, you can also look up Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and see their stuff. Now, absolutely completely different in the information. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the stuff that he's putting out now, Kiyosaki's material is extremely volatile and extremely dangerous. And so, as I said, the first one I'd be okay with, but now stay away from it. If you are a young entrepreneur and you've got a small amount to put into properties, this is not a problem, but do one. get to know it. Get to know what it's like when you purchase a property. If you have a rental, you have a person renting from you, you need to know how to recognize a good renter, a bad renter, back checks. There's a whole bunch of stuff to do. But if you do what he says, and that's leverage, building to building to building to building to building, you're setting up a huge set of dominoes. And if I tip this domino or any of the dominoes somewhere along the line with that system, it all comes crashing down. Because unless the properties are set up so that you never have a person not renting your building. If you have a building and you can't get a good renter for 6 months, or you get a bad renter in there and then that bad renter wrecks the interior of your place, you need to put $5,000 into fix-ups. You see where the problem comes in. So I highly recommend not to follow his information now. The second reason that I recommend not following his information is that he makes the bulk of his money not from what he teaches, but from his seminars and his books and his online stuff. If what he said worked to the level he says it works, he'd be making the bulk of his money from that. But he doesn't. He makes the bulk of his money from you. From you buying his books, from you buying his seminars, from you, and you'll notice right now on the tube, you go on and every second ad pops up and it's him, because that's where he's making the bulk of his money. I always warn people, don't listen to a guru whose system that he's describing to you is not the system he's using presently in order to make his money. When they hit that point where they start making the bulk of their money from their information and they're not using their system, it makes it problematic. Okay, so let's move on from that one. Let's move on to Dave Ramsey. Now, Dave, his stuff's intelligent. Kiyosaki says that savers are losers. Super wrong. Super duper wrong. And I will have a face-to-face with him if he wants to talk about why that's super wrong. If and when you are starting out, and our videos are not for the guy who's got $250,000 sitting in cash in his bank account. Our videos are for the kind of guy who's working at 7-Eleven and doesn't seem to be able to get out anywhere. And we are giving information for getting you out of it. So when we move to Dave Ramsey's stuff is pretty decent. Dave is pay cash for everything. Get rid of your credit cards. Now, the reason Dave says get rid of your credit cards is because, and I'm not saying this to be mean, most people who are in the lower category lack some self-discipline on finance, and you won't pay your credit card off at the end of the month. And so I understand what Dave's saying, get rid of the credit card totally and don't give yourself that temptation. Pay cash for everything. It's quite a smart idea at the start. Later on as you go, once you've developed yourself into some personal, accept responsibility for your actions. Credit cards are great because you can spend money on your credit card. I, at one time, when I started out, I was the same way. I got rid of the credit cards. But then I added credit cards back in once my financial structure was back in, because you can stock up free groceries. You can stock up stuff that's useful in real life. I'm not talking trips. You can do that too, but in particular, for example, the Costco card was good for groceries. And so why not get free groceries? So when you get to Dave Ramsey's material, a lot of it is great to start with, but you need to transition past his material once you're a little further on. And I'm going to explain why. Dave Ramsey's material and Susie Orman's material, they're kind of good. I should take Susie for a second here. Susie's very much like Dave, but what you need to do is balance a little more. Susie will tell you to get rid of every single thing that you possibly can. Like, don't spend $7 on a latte anymore, which is stupid in the first place. But what you need to do, and the one balance I would say on Susie, is once in a while treat yourself. If you don't, you go crazy. It's like going onto a diet and never eating what you like anymore. That's not a good idea. You, once in a while, have to set yourself up. So once a month or once a week, you can treat yourself one thing. Don't get a $7 latte. That's insane. So getting back to Dave Ramsey, I really appreciate the stuff Dave's doing, but Dave's stuff cannot work if you're a person working at 7-Eleven, you've got a minimum wage job. Dave's material works for people who have like $80,000 incomes, whose spending is out of control, but it doesn't work for people who are minimum wage. And I'm going to explain why. It's the amount of money that you can put away. If you're in a minimum wage job, I don't know down in America, but up here in Canada, once you pay taxes, about $1,800 is what you're going to have left over at the end. Now, if you put aside a ridiculous amount, which isn't possible unless you know stuff that I don't know. Let's say you're putting $400 a month away from your minimum wage job. And let's say you're 20 years of age. And so I'm going to get you to put, so that's $4,800 a year, and you're 20 years of age, and you're going to put $4,800 a year away until you are 60 years of age. So for 40 years, and I'm going to give you an average return on it of 6%. And people will talk about 12% on mutual funds. And sure, you could have 1 or 2 years where you're going to get 12% on a mutual fund, but you will not get that over a 40-year period. It's never happened. It will not happen unless there's some massive hyperinflation, and then your money's not really accruing in the first place. So you put your money into this, $4,800 a month. Actually, we'll throw it here on the screen. $4,800 a month, 6% interest for 40 years. When you are done, you will have $792,228 sitting in that account for you, okay? Wow, that sounds pretty decent. I mean, it's not $1 million, but it sounds like a lot. Sure it does, if it was in today's dollars, but it's not. What happens is your buying power, if we look at inflation over that time period, and I keep the same inflation, so from 1980, for example, till now, which is the same rough 40-year period, your dollar, a dollar in 1980 is worth about 32% of what it was in buying power. So what you could buy in 1980 with a dollar, it's the equivalent of only having 32 cents now. So you have to take that into account, that it's going to drop like that over that time period. So when you get that money, that $792,228 40 years from now, the buying power of that amount of money is actually only $264,000, because the buying power will have shrunk by that much. Now that's not that much, it's like $250,000. You can't retire and have any kind of income on $250,000. And here's the worst part, the government still wants their taxes. They don't want tax on the $264,000 buying power, they want the tax on the $792,228. So you can imagine what kind of tax bracket that puts you into, and the fact that you have to pull small amounts of money out on a continuous basis. It gets really bad. So this is why Dave Ramsey's material can't work for somebody who's in a lower segment of the population, okay? And so we want to cover how you, as a low-income earner, can actually get to the next point. Now, we're going to cover some different levels of consumers and who they are and where you fit into, and give you an idea where to go from there. So I'm going to divide wage earners into 3 categories. Level 1 is the me-me's. Level 2 is the slow me's, and level 3 is the risk me's. We'll do that up on the screen. Me-me's, slow me's, risk me's. Riskies, risk me's, that's not bad either. So I'm going to explain the levels. Me-me's are the people who spend everything that they get, and they feel that they deserve, so they spend. And they don't save anything. And this can be everything from movie stars to athletes to the guy working at 7-Eleven. It's anybody who actually just goes out there and their check arrives and boom, they're spending it. So you work 5 days, you're in the bar, you blow it all in the bar, or you buy that $50,000 purse that has $1,000 worth of material in it just so that you can show your friends and go, oh, I'm so special. Oh, you're special, all right. So that's category 1. Category 2, those are the saver people. And saver people are the people who will scrounge and save and put everything away. I have friends that do this, and everything goes into the mutual funds, the stock market, anything that has a return, and they do a really good job on their finances. Number 3, those are the riskies. These are the only people that end up becoming super wealthy. They're the people that use the method that we're going to describe that actually makes the millions. So understand that if you are on level 1, which is the Mimi, you're going to have to transition through each of these. You don't just wake up and you're a risky, okay? If you're a Mimi, you'll have to transition, or if you're a slow me, getting to risk me is gonna kill you. But if you ever really want to make the money and you're not in a job that's making $250,000 or $100,000 a year, if you're in the lower categories, you have to go to the risky end if you want to make it. Now, I'm going to explain the chances of you becoming wealthy in category 1, the Mimis, or category 2, the Slomies, is 14%. 14% of the people in those categories will become wealthy. Why? Because even in the Mimi group, there's some idiot who lucks out and becomes famous on YouTube, or you know, in the movies, or the singer, or they won some competition, or they won the lottery. That's what accounts for that category. And the same for the Slomies. The Slomies cover everybody who has a good job, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, everybody out there who has a good job. And their chance of retiring super wealthy is still only 14%, which is terrifying because the one group is putting away and scrounging and saving, and the other group's idiots. So what you need to do, and you can look at some of our videos, we have videos on 10 things to stop doing to become wealthy. So if you're in the Mimi category, start looking at some of our other videos and get some control on your finances. Watch Dave Ramsey, how to pay off your debt, things like that, things that you can change and do. You need to then transition slowly into the saving category. And here's where I have a problem with Kiyosaki. Kiyosaki is all debt, 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 debt. Debt's good, debt's bad. Because you can tell people, oh, I have $10 million in assets. No, you don't. The bank has $10 million in assets. They just let you put your name on it. And if the people who are renting from you finally do pay off those properties, then it's yours. If you think it's yours, if you think that car is yours, if you think that property is yours, try not making payments for 3 months. I guarantee you'll find out whose property that is, whose car that is. That's how the real world works. So leveraging yourself into a $10 million portfolio that the bank owns has no value. You need to start out by moving yourself from the Mimi into the Slow Me category. The Slow Me category is save, save, save. Save everything you can. Get out there, get a second job, sell the stuff that you don't need. Everybody out there has information on how to save like crazy. Start looking at YouTube videos, save like crazy, and get yourself a small amount of money. Now, once you've got $100, $200, $300, now you can start moving yourself into the risky category, okay? The risky category is the Elon Musks and stuff like that. Elon did PayPal and then took everything he had, split it into 2, and started other companies, which you obviously know, Tesla and SpaceX, and they came so close to failing. He took every last cent that he had. People don't understand this. Divided it again, dumped it into the companies so that he was scrounging for food and sleeping in his office. That's the kind of kazungas that man has. And I mean, obviously it made it. It could have failed. He expected it to fail when he went in. But he did it anyway because he's a risky. He wanted to do something nobody'd ever done before. So once you've got this small amount of money, you are told that you should put it into a mutual fund, you should put it into stocks, you should put it into something like that, something returning 6 to 8% interest. Don't do it. Don't. Here, just don't. You see that? That is the slow way to not make any money. Because if think about it, 6% interest, how many years is it going to take if you've got $100 and the next year they give you $6 on that, and the next year they give you $6.50 on that? How many years is it going to take for that money to double? Instead, if you take your $100 and you sit down and you go through, let's say, want ads in the newspaper, or in Canada we have Kijiji, and you find something and just, hey, you're blowing your time watching television anyway, stop watching television, go on to advertisements where they're selling stuff. Yeah, by the way, if you ever want to be wealthy, you got to shut the boob tube off. You've got to take your gaming system and sell it. Because if you are a gamer and you're a 10th level wizard in whatever game or World of Warcraft, I can guarantee that when you're old, sitting in a home eating oatmeal, no one will care that you're a level 52 druid, knight, whatever, okay? So if that's the most important thing in your life, you enjoy that. But if you want to ever have the kind of money that you dream about, you got to turn that television off. I'd sell the thing and turn off your whatever and sell them. There's your money that you can start, okay? Go on to someplace or go to garage sales, wherever, and look for something that you can purchase with the $100 item. And then you can turn around because you know it's worth twice as much. And you're thinking, what good is that? Well, first off, 100 to 200 is 100% return on your money within a year. And there's no tax on it. But the important thing is now you're starting to practice. You're starting to practice the idea of purchase, sale, purchase, sale. And at the level that you're at right now, if you're a minimum wage earner, you've got to practice that. You can't just jump in to the stock market. I mean, I've lost $10,000 on stock market transactions, okay? And I was like, if you can do that, if you can go, then you're okay with that. But I can guarantee you lose 10 grand or you watch your stock market drop by 10 grand, you're going to be up all night, okay? Having done that, I tell people, don't go into the stock market. It's crappy return, and it doesn't teach you anything other than how not to sleep. So the point of this, as I said before, is we're moving you from the me category into the slow me category. But we're also moving you at the same time into the risky category because you're learning how to double your money, double your money, double your money. And they'll hit a point where you can't double your money, but you'll only increase it by 20%, by 30%. My son, at 11 years of age, opened a rock shop and mineral museum at 11 years of age. And he learned that you could buy a rock, turn around and sell a rock for twice as much. And if you did that 3 or 4 times a year with that quantity of money, he's making 500% return on his capital. Now, if he can do that with rocks, you can do that with something else. So this is the whole point of how to move into becoming a risky. You have to, and don't quit your job, but everything that you can save, and then you can leverage into another item and another item and another item. Now, once you hit a specific point where this $100 is now $30,000, you might not have enough on your own. You might have some friends that are doing the same thing. You could form a small company where the 2 or 3 of you put your money together. I've done this with people. And you each put your $30,000 in. It's a company. And then go and purchase a house that's a bank repo, as an example. Now, because you purchased this property for cash, you don't have that problem of, oh, what happens if there's not a renter in it right now? Panic. Instead, you own the property and you've got somebody in there, they're paying the rent on it. You're going to be seeing, with standard rents and everything, you're going to be seeing roughly a 10 to 12% return all the time, no matter what. On top of that, you get the property fixed up, and then the property can go back on the market. So as an example, the property, that we're in right now, we purchased the property for cash, then we put an equal amount into fixing it up because it was a bank repo, but it was very inexpensive. When we put it back on the market, it's going to take, it took roughly 3 to 4 months worth of fix-ups, diddly fix-ups, to turn around. It's a beautiful property. We'll put it back on the market and we'll probably profit $70,000 tax-free after tax on the property. And that's for that time period. So if you look at the amount that we put in and the amount that comes back, that's when you start becoming wealthy. So now let's say, for example, that you put in $100,000 on the house and you're profiting 100 or 70,000 on the house. Now we've got a piece of 170. Now picture what you could leverage if you did that again and again and again. And this is what real estate people do. This is why they're making the money. So Kiyosaki's idea of real estate is a great idea, but not leveraging through the bank, because that house of cards can come crashing down at all times. So backing up and finishing off again, the Susie Orman and the Dave Ramsey material is great to start. It lets you understand how to get control of your expenditures, watch their stuff. But once you've hit the point where you do have your debts paid off and you've got some extra capital, you have to transition from there into, as I described before, starting to take more risks. Now, you can develop a company. Other than that, here's simple how you develop a company. You want away from your job, you hate your job, so you're going to start a company. Do not start a company because you love whatever, okay? I love whatever. Don't. That's the quickest way to fail and blow all your money off. A company has to be something that people need. If it's not a need, you don't open up a sports store in a retirement village because they're not going to purchase your items, as a given example. So if you're going to set up a company, check that there is a need for that, a big need for that. Check to make sure that the market isn't saturated with all of the people, so you can look around, find a need, develop a product to fill that need, or a store to fill that need. And when you've done that and you open that store, then you're going to start producing. But when you open that business, and I think we should do a separate video on this, when you open that business, it has to have capacity for expansion, or don't do it. So for example, unless there's going to be enough income coming in from that business where you can hire a manager and you're gone, don't do it. You need to be able to have a business where you can offload, hire a manager, the manager takes over, and you're making passive income. That company's making money for you when you're not there, okay? If it can't do that, if it doesn't have the capacity to do that, don't touch it. So look for ideas that have expansion, that can keep going, and then you can be free from it so that you can move on to something else. Now, if you're starting out and you want some good material, as I said, listen to Dave. His material is great for getting out of debt and starting. I don't like, he says invest in mutual funds. I'm completely against that. The return is terrible. And the return is not just bad for that reason, but they'll tell you it's great for a constant stay with it stock market for 40 years. What they don't get into is, here's 2000, boom, the stock. So if you bought here, just before that dive happens, it's going to be, here's the price you paid. It was 4 years before your stock came up. That's 4 years you lost because you put your money in somebody else's hands and they had control over it. Stay away from that. Stay away from the stock market. 2000, boom, 4 years. 2008, boom, 4 years. That's 8 years out of your 40 years that you didn't accrue or make any capital back because you got into the market at the wrong time. If, on the other hand, you'd had the $100 in your hand and bought and sold only once in that time period, you would have done better than the stock market. Okay. Books you want to get to read. I don't have my copy here. I lent it out. Super Self. I'll put it up here on the screen for you. Get this book. This book is one of the best books to let you understand who you are, your risk levels, everything. It's brilliant. This is the best book I've ever read on business. I've read a lot of them. Fast Lane Millionaire is a good book too. I don't know if we can throw that one up on the screen. I just finished reading that one. It's really good. I do have a couple of books here I recommend. If you're younger or you have younger people, I'm going to throw these up on the screen. Okay. This one is Reviving the Art of Innovation. It's a great book on how you start a business from mowing lawns upward. Hit #1 on Amazon. Good book. And kid's 16 years of age when he wrote it, and he did it because he did this. So he had the successful business worth $350,000 at the time he wrote the book. So extremely good. And another book by him, if you yourself can't push yourself, I hope I have that right in front of the screen there. If you can't push yourself to read a facts book, and a lot of people are like, then go with this one. Or if you've got kids and you want something that's probably one of the best books on starting from nothing and building yourself up to wealth, this one I cannot, hopefully I'm holding it close enough that it's focused in on that. We'll also stick it here. It's called The Richest Kid in Babylon, again on Amazon. Cannot recommend this more highly. So that's where we're going to finish for the day. As I mentioned before, get out there, start teaching yourself. Go listen to Dave Ramsey. Don't listen to Kiyosaki. Don't buy his stuff. It is a waste of money. You can learn everything that he said by watching other people's videos for free on YouTube. I wish I could remember Steve's. You know what I do? We'll put Steve's name, Steven, up on the screen. His videos are actually really decent, and that should do it. You know how this works. Please hit the like button down below. It drives the logarithm crazy on YouTube and makes them throw the video up so other people can see this. Pass this around. If you've got people, say, look, it's a long video, but please watch the video so that you can get a rough idea of where to go and what to do. Comment below if you know something better or some other information that people should do. Throw that in the comments below, and hit the subscribe button if you'd like more of these videos. Thanks very much. Now go out and start making yourself successful.